We feel very privileged and excited to present to you the bottom line. This is Elevation's point of view on the evolution of the fintech industry and also a definitive blueprint for what we believe is a $400 billion value creation opportunity by FY30. We believe that fintechs have truly come of age in the last decade. They've been able to do two things. One, they've been able to create value at scale. Today, the cumulative market cap of all the fintechs in India is about $90 to $100 billion. And more importantly, they've been able to catalyze the modernization of the entire financial services ecosystem. In this report, we also introduce our 4E framework. These we believe are the four vectors along which fintechs will create value and truly drive the modernization of the financial services ecosystem. The four being expansion, experience, enablement, and efficiency.
When I started Paytm, which was the core philosophy of building a payment for everybody in the country, where I remember to the 6 people team that I started with, I actually said that we will solve payment in our country, a problem no more left to be solved. I mean, it has to reach literally the last merchant possible that we could do. And the biggest cost, as we all know, in the payment business in early 2011, 10, 11, 12 was a plastic cost, which is very deterrent because of plastic issuance, plastic delivery, plastic operations for consumer. And then second side, the merchant side, where the machine, that payment machine that we call it POS machine, EDC machine, was the cost. And the expansion of merchant network by using a humble PayPal QR that you are seeing this side now. Okay, this side. My understanding is the single most revolutionary movement that happened in this country was when merchant discovered QR and customer accepted that I can scan this QR to make a payment, and merchant accepted that payment has happened. So a revolution that QR pioneered for mobile payment, because consumers were happy clicking selfies, clicking photos, and in the early days, smartphone was in fact a multimedia device, content generation device, and the QR just captured the imagination very, very well. Plus, I want to give you a very interesting behind the scene anecdote. When I was thinking of QR, there is a time when NFC and Apple Pay, etc. were taking off in the West, which meant that mobile payment was understood to be as if that it could be a phone tap, and that is the mobile payment for US. And my problem was that the fact that phone has to be tapped on a device which is costly, this is not the mobile payment. Number one. And number two, when mobile payment was to be built in India, the cost of acquiring merchant had to be phenomenally low, few hundred rupees, and continuous serving cost had to be literally take a print out by DIY. So when we launched QR, internally there were many people in my own team who were unconvinced by that QR will be bringing mobile payment revolution that we are going to bring in due course. And it did not pass a very critical test, and I want to share that also. When you make a payment on QR, you as a customer get a confirmation of payment, and the person has to just see that I have given you payment. So it's equal to say, I'm going to give you this money and hope you got this, because this is payment done and hope you got the money. So it was uncomfortable for my board also. I want to share this fact that when we demonstrated, the board was like, how would merchant know that he's giving you the money or not? And I shared their concern was actually fulfilled as a solution in Soundbox in due course. So India has gone from solving for low cost payment to a very trusted payment. And Soundbox, which is very ubiquitous, also brought a revenue model of another kind. So revolution started with QR and extended by UPI, where linking of a bank account became phenomenally easy. As soon as any technology in financial system or any technology elsewhere will grow to a very dramatic level, the fallbacks show up, the limitations show up. And that is when optimum time before COVID, we could bring Soundbox, which solved for attendance for a shop problem in COVID, but it actually was solving for trust and confidence to a merchant that payment has been received. Now, the byproduct of problem solving, which was in COVID, has become is that this is a revenue model. So earlier, India's model was prepaid in telecom. If you know, we only pay as much we make phone calls off, and postpaid is ease as much you can, which is a Western model. So India does not follow that in telecom. So typically everybody thought that devices will go on a percentage of payment that I receive. contrarian to that, it actually goes on ease as much you can on a monthly unlimited plan. And again, I would say this is another revolution, because finding a perfect business model that merchant love and your customer loves is also a very time-consuming process. So here we are, UPI, which gave access to the bank account to make payment on QR, now also have a revenue model in subscription business model. So when many of us talk about zero MDR being a concern, I always say that I'm sorry, zero MDR is actually the reason for force multiplying scale that we are seeing, because for a small shopkeeper, ability to understand that this digital payment or mobile payment will give some dividend is uncomfortably less. They're like, oh, I mean, or the fraction of payment they would give up as a service fee is also a concern for them, because they don't like it that of 100 rupees, I should get 100 rupees. As a cash that you gave, it's 100 rupee. Yes, handed over, received 100 rupees and instantly settled. Now match up that. Anything else is uncomfortable. So that is the truest test that I carried in my mind, that digital has to come up to physical. And this is true for commerce also. A few minutes back when we were discussing on those things, that let's understand that we are used to of a service standard of physical world and a price standard of physical world. Digital, which could be and should be cheaper, cannot be costlier than the physical world, for sure, in a total cost of ownership in any sense. In fact, the subscription solved for it is the reason that it took off, that there are more number of shops. So I'm going to call merchants who are merchants. I'm not talking about person-to-person payment that you can do to a merchant. That number we believe could be 100 million in this country. So payment that took off in India as mobile payment could bring 100 million formal merchants on payment.
Please visit bottomline.elevationcapital.com. Here we have compiled all the data, interview notes, and views that have all gone into building this report. We hope the entire ecosystem is able to benefit from this compendium as much as we have.